Welcome to this fifth in the video series on zero-based budgeting and cash flow management using the Managing My Money or MMM Excel tool. This assumes that you have seen the two core videos which give an overview on zero-based budgeting and on this tool. And now we'll be having an optional feature presentation on how to import bank data into this tool from Quicken. There are two types of Quicken import options. One is the transaction import, and the other one is the category import. Transaction import is the recommended option. We'll be going over the transaction import setup, followed by a demo of that process. Then we'll be looking at two tools that support the handling of that imported data: reconciliation and transaction data source and data type. Finally, we'll talk about an alternate option for importing data from Quicken. So let's jump to the tool, and you'll see that on the first set of videos we talked about creating your zero-based budget. And then on the last video we talked about the track sheet and how to gather data and manually enter data into your sheet. We're going to go a step further this time and talk about how to import the data from your bank and credit card accounts into the track sheet. Now to import, to set up the import for Quicken will be similar to importing the tiller. You have to click the import button, the same button. But when you get into the screen, you'll change the import source. We're going to first do the Quicken transaction, as if you're using Quicken and wanting to import data from Quicken, that is the recommended and preferred method because it brings in all of the detail. So pick Quicken transactions. Now there is going to be a one-time setup that you need to do, and it's in the bottom section here. And we'll walk through that one-time setup because essentially what you're doing is you're creating two reports. And depending upon what you want to import, you'll just pick that report and basically just copy the contents of that report into this sheet and import it, right? So let's do the one-time setup and then we'll demo the actual import. So to do that, let me pull up Quicken. So in this case, you can see the Quicken application, and down on the bottom I have the 5 one-time setup steps. So we'll go through these. The first one is you have to create 2 custom reports. So the way you do it is you open up the reports banking transaction report in Quicken. So you come in here, you click reports banking transaction, and that will pull up a basic report for you, right? Their generic transaction report. Now you need to modify it a bit. If you look on step 2, select the gear, so this icon here, right? And to get to the report configuration, and you need to, it says configure it to have only 6 columns. So you'll see that in the show columns section of the report, it has a lot of columns displayed. So what you need to do is simply select and put them in this order, the way they're shown on the picture in the instructions. So date first, yes, that's checked. Second is description. Third is memo. Fourth is number. Fifth is account. Sixth is amount. Well, this has category. We don't want that. Has tag. Don't want that. Don't want tax items. Come down. We don't want clear. Yes, we want amount. So those are the 6 items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the correct order. So for example, if you had the number up here, you would need to get it and push it down to be 1, 2, 3, the 4th one in the report. So once you've done that, you also need to change these 3 settings. The date range has to be month to date. So date range, change that to month to date. And then the subtotal by should say, right here, subtotal by should say don't subtotal. And the sort by should say account and date. So once you've done that, you've finished step 2. Step 3 is, while still in this report configuration screen, go to the Accounts tab. So it's the very next tab. And press Clear All to deselect all the accounts. So I put a whole bunch of dummy accounts in here just to show that you can have lots of different things in your Quicken. You want to clear them all out. And then select only the bank and the credit card accounts. So you'll look, the first set of series are bank ones, so I'll go ahead and select all of those. And then there's assets. Assets, liabilities, investments, and loans should be excluded. So I'll just skip all the assets. Oh, here's some credit ones. I'll pick some credit ones. Here's some liabilities. Here's some investments. I don't want those. I only want credit and bank. So once you've done that, you've completed step 3. Click OK to close the report configuration screen. Now you can look at this report setup and confirm that it looks like the picture above, right? Transaction month to date, don't subtotal account date, and then the columns, the 6 columns in the correct order. Once you've confirmed that, you can hit the save icon. So that's going to be this one here. To save the report and give it a name, you can give it any name you want, but easy to remember: Managing My Money, MMM, month to date transaction export. Now I'm not going to save it because I've already saved this report. The next step would be, after you hit save and you've given it the title and hit save, keep it open, simply change the date range to last month. So instead of month to date, go to last month. And then that'll bring you up a different report. It has all the data from last month. And then you'll hit save and give it a different name: MMM-last month transaction export. Again, I'm not going to save it because I already have saved it. So, and then you're done. So that never has to be done again. You just have to do that one time. And then from then on, you can use that for your import. So to confirm that it was done correctly, you can click on the reports and click on My Saved Reports and Graphs, and you should see them there: MMM last month transaction report and MMM month to date transaction export. Those are your 2 reports. So now if I go back to you, then you follow the steps 1 through 7 to import your data. First step is to clear the sheet. So just press the Clear Quicken Data button right here. Are you sure you want to clear the Quicken data? Yes. What that's going to do is that's going to clear the table to the left, which will probably have the data from your last import. Just as a reminder of what you had imported last time, you'll just clear that out. Then step 2 is select one of the reports. What is the data you want to import? So typically what I'll do, for example, after the first week of the month, I'll go and say, give me month to date for the current month to date, and I'll import that. Then the next week, second week, I'll do another month to date, and then third week, another month to date, a fourth week. By the way, it won't overwrite, it won't duplicate any of your transactions. They'll be fine. So you do that to the end of the month. When you get to the end of the month and you're on the next month, if you want to make sure you got all the transactions from the previous month, you can do last month transaction. It'll pull everything from last month. Again, it won't cause duplicates. It'll just overwrite those so that you have all the correct information. Things that are already there, it will leave alone, but any new transactions it'll add. Okay, so basically you come in here, you clear the data, you pick which one of the 2 reports you want to use, then you click this icon and copy the report. So let's go ahead and do that. So basically I've said I want to do my my import. So let me go to Quicken. I'm going to go to Reports. I'm going to go My Saved Reports. I want to do the last month's transaction export. So basically all of January. It's going to pull it up. Here it is with all the data in it. All I have to do is click here and copy. Now under it shows the categorization. To do the report that I'm doing now, you don't need to categorize it in Quicken. You can just ignore the categorization because it'll auto-categorize it in Managing My Money. just to let you know, that's if you're doing it in Quicken, fine, but if you're not, you don't have to do it twice. Just leave it alone and you can do it in Managing My Money. Okay, so once I've copied that report, I come back to Quick. So I've done that one. I pick the report, I hit copy. Then in this worksheet, do the following. Select the cell to receive data. Click on the yellow highlighted cell in the table to the left. By the way, that'll already be highlighted because when you clear the data, it highlights that cell. But click on it just to be sure. And then it says press Control V. So you can either right click and say paste, but it's easier just to simply Control V, and it will copy in all of the data, all the transactions from Quicken for the previous month. Then you click Add to Track Sheet, and you'll get some confirmations. Are you sure? Are you sure? Here's what it's going to do. And then it will import it, and it'll take you right to the track sheet, and it'll tell you that it completed. There were new transactions added, 64. Existing ones ignored. So again, if I had some existing ones, it will leave them there. It'll tell you that it left them there, but it'll add any new ones in that date range. So it has now successfully imported. And by the way, the details about how importing, how you manage that in here, you can, I would recommend to listen to the Tiller Money import section. I talked a little bit more about some of these fields. Import by clicking the import button. And I'm going to now go to the Quicken category roll-ups demo. So you'll see here, one thing that you'll note is that there is no one-time setup because there's nothing you have to do in Quicken to prepare for this. It's just it's a very straightforward thing. It makes two assumptions. One, you've categorized everything in Quicken. And two, your Quicken categories have to match exactly your Managing My Money categories. That's a little bit of an effort to get right at first. You got to make sure that they match exactly right. Because if they don't match and it tries to import something with that categorization, it will create, if it sees a new one that it didn't recognize in here, it'll create it for you here. But because this is a zero-based budget system, it'll create the category for you, but it won't assign any budget. And it won't know if this is an annual expense, if it's a monthly fix, a monthly variable. So normally what you would do is you would need to then go back to your expenses after you've imported. So if you use this roll-up section option, then the first few times you do it, you need to make sure that your categories match. If not, you need to either fix them in Quicken to match or fix them in here. They have to match. If it comes in not quite correct, you can always merge it. If you go to the Expenses tab, you can rename it. And if it sees it's a duplicate name, it'll ask you, do you want to merge them? You can merge them. So the tools are there to do that. It's just a little bit more effort to get those in sync the first time. The second limitation of this is that this only gives you the summary. So it'll give you one entry per category, and it'll tell you, for example, for that month, what was the total sum amount for that category. So you can't drill down. So for example, if you want to do any drill downs, it says, oh, well, for eating out, which places did I eat out at? And let me see a breakdown between one restaurant and another one. You'd have to do that in Quicken. Because if you use the Quicken transaction details, you have everything in here. You can do all the drill downs, everything that you want, all the data is here. If you do just the category roll-up summary, it's enough information that you can manage your zero-based budget, right? Basically, if you're using Quicken heavily and doing a lot of work in there and categorizing, and you're saying, well, I don't need all the detailed reports and drill downs in this Managing My Money. I just want the basic zero-based budget management piece. Then you can do this as long as you sync up those categories. And the section, well, the next videos that we have on how to manage your month, how to manage your year, do your forecast, all that's still valid, all that will work. You just won't be able to drill down. So what I'll do, let me give you a demo of what that looks like. It'll make a little bit more sense. So let me switch over in just 1 second. It says first clear the sheet, so do the same thing. Clear the Quicken data, hit the button, clear, it'll just clear out the table on the left. Then go to Quicken and do the following. This one doesn't use a custom report. This uses just one of the Quicken standard reports. reports, spending, spending by category. So let's go to Quicken. One thing you'll note is the difference between this and the last time. This has the same data in it that the other demo did, exact same data. The difference is that this time you'll see that I've categorized, I've put in categorizations for each of my transactions in Quicken. On the previous one, these fields were blank, the white fields rows. Okay, so I have this. Now I want to look at following this reports. So click on reports, spending. So go down to spending, spending by category. So click on spending by category. So that will come up and that will pull up a report. Okay, now what it's going to do by default when it comes up, it's going to default to year to date. So what you need to do is you need to set the date range to last month. Last month, it's actually whatever date range you want to import, but typically with this one, I typically will do the whole previous month or month to date. So set the column to none, that's already set to none, then you're done. Right, then you do the same thing. Click here, click copy to clipboard, and you are done. Then you can come back to this sheet, click on the yellow cell, click Control V, and that will import. It's a different kind of data because if you look at what it's importing, it's only importing the categories. It'll tell me, it'll import, for example, the total amount that I did in eating out, but it won't give me each individual transaction. So then when I've done this, I just click to add to track sheet. Do you want to process it? Yes. Now this is gonna because these are roll-ups, it's gonna overwrite all the transactions between so whatever date that you pick in Quicken to do, it'll put that date range here, whether that's a week, a month, whatever it is. You can set the date. I put last month here, but you can put whatever date range you want. Because it's a roll-up, it includes every single transaction in the roll-up. It's going to overwrite everything in that date range on your track sheet with this. So you hit yes, okay. It reminds you twice that you know what you're doing. And then it will import the data. Now what it's doing on that, the processing that you saw is basically taking all of the Quicken categories and making sure that it has the correct, finds the correct categories in the track sheet. Now you'll see here that it's a very small set of information because it's going to be one value per category and it's a sum. So I can no longer, all the tools that we have in this track sheet, none of these really will provide value because it's all imported as summaries. The other limitation on this one is that you'll notice that it's only importing the expenditures because that was an expense report that we ran. So it does not have the capability on the roll-ups to do income. So so credits are in there. So since you're doing a sum of all of the values, so any credits you had for entertainment or for clothing, that's all in here. But if you have income, salary, then that will not come in and you'll have to manually enter the income piece. But that's typically not a whole lot of transactions. The other thing that I would point out is that you'll see this uncategorized. Anything that Quicken that is uncategorized will show up here as uncategorized. Because you don't have the detail here, you can't find out which ones are uncategorized. So you'll need to go back to Quicken, find those and categorize them and then re-import the range. No problem. Again, it'll overwrite all of these. The reason would be when you recategorize these in Quicken, some of that might go to fuel, some of this amount might go to pet care, some might go to medical. And so when you re-import the date range, it's just going to overwrite the entire range with a new set of data, a new set of roll-ups, and then your uncategorized should be to 0. Okay, so that is how those are, if I go back to my import, those are the 3 kinds of imports that we have. The preferred tiller money feed, I think if you're using Quicken, then and you want to and you don't use Teller Money Feed, which I do recommend using Teller Money Feed, has a lot of benefits to that. But you can use the Quicken Transactions. That's the second best, and then the third would be Quicken Category Rollups. I mean, this can be a quick and easy. Once you have it all set up, the category rollups can be a simple thing. If you only ever want to worry about categorizing one time, and that's in Quicken, and you get it all synced up. It's a fast and easy way to do it. But personally, I like having all my details in here.
If you've been following my video series and you found value in what this tool can do for you, then I'd like to share with you the prerequisites for using the MMM Managing My Money tool in Excel. First of all, as noted, it is free to download and to use, but you need to email mmm.expenseplanning@gmail.com to obtain an activation code and download instructions. Second, this runs on a local version of Microsoft Excel, so it's not running on cloud. Everything will be local on your machine, but it requires that you have Office 365 version running locally on your machine. It only uses United States regional date and currency formats. And as mentioned before, although this is a free tool that I'm making available, there is, if you desire to have data imported from your bank or credit card companies, then that requires an optional paid subscription to an unaffiliated service, one of two, right, to get that data into Excel, into this tool in a simple manner. The preferred way, in my mind, is Teller Money, as it's a one-step direct bank to Excel import. Another option is Quicken. So if you have Quicken, they provide a mechanism for importing data from your bank into Quicken, and then this tool provides a mechanism to pull that data out of Quicken and into the MMM transaction screen. I hope you found value in this video, and thank you for watching.